Hello and welcome back to Pentor Cars Cornish Car Collectors, where I've just picked up this Honda Civic Type-R GT. Now it's a Honda Civic FN2 and I bought it at the Plymouth car auctions. Now I hadn't intended to buy this car. I was at the pre-Christmas sale, albeit online, for Plymouth car auctions, and this car was in the lineup and it looked a pretty decent car, so I bid what I thought was sensible money. And as much to my surprise as anyone else's, I won the car and I've just this moment collected it. You see, I had a EP3 Honda Civic Type-R a few years ago and I really enjoyed the car and always wanted to have a go in an FN2. Albeit, I understand lots of people say that the FN2 is a bit of a retrospective step in the Civic Type-R lineage. But having said that, in these first kind of 4 or 5 miles that I've driven this car, it certainly doesn't feel it. Anyway, it's not my intention to keep this car long term. I bought it to experience it, to enjoy it, and then eventually to sell it on to someone who I'm certain will absolutely love it. So join me in this video as I share my initial views on this FN2 Civic Type-R, tidy it up a little bit, share a bit of the story of the Civic Type-R, and take it for a proper drive. Please do click like on the video, leave me a comment about the FN2 or the EP3 Honda Civic Type-R, or anything really car related or to do with the channel. And if you haven't done so already, please do subscribe. The car auction is about 20 miles from my house. That's a decent enough drive to get a good feel for the car that you've bought, to know if you've bought well or if you've bought a costly mistake. And so far, this Honda Civic feels really good. Buying from auction is always a risk, and I've lucked out a few times. And it's particularly risky since the COVID pandemic, as lots of the physical auctions moved online, and that means you can't stand next to the car, you can't hear it start, you can't hear it run. You can't question the auction driver as they take the car from the lot into the auction room to get a real flavour for the mechanical condition. The cars are really well photographed though, so you do get an idea of the condition of the car, and it gives you some indicators as to what the mechanical standard of the car is. But you do make a judgment on it, you do take a risk. Now this car comes with full service history and 2 keys, which is a really good start. It also has a bronze check put on it by the auction, which is a kind of test that the auction do on the car pre-sale, and it covers a few things. It's a stationary test where they start the car, they engage first gear, they do a visual check of the engine. It doesn't cover a great deal, but it is really useful. Now, one thing that did worry me about this car is the sticker on the back, put on there I assume by the previous owner, which was an octane sticker. So that kind of heightened my anxiety about it. But having picked the car up now, I've also spotted the National Trust sticker up there, and when I switched the stereo on just now, it tuned to Radio 2, both of which are good signs. And on closer inspection, that octane sticker on the back is a "My other car is an octane," which I believe relates to radio controlled cars, and that's another indication that this car hasn't previously been owned by a road racing hoodlum, which is a real relief. As this journey continues, you'll likely see the relief in me grow, as with every mile that we cover comes additional assurance that I've bought well this time. So my initial thoughts on the FN2 Civic Type-R? Well, the first thing to say is I just love this kind of curved driver focused dashboard. It's really nice. I love the heads-up display there with the VTEC and the Type-R logos, and that rev gauge that tells you when to change gear when engaging VTEC. I think that one thing that I love about cars are seats. I really like seats, And the seats in this FN2 Civic Type-R are beautiful. They're not only attractive, they're also really comfortable and figure hugging. Love this half Alcantara red look, really smart feature on the car. Performance and handling, well, it handles really well. The engine's performing well. The gearbox is really nice. Visibility isn't great with these big thick A-pillars and that spoiler that kind of cuts the rear view in half, but I think that just takes some getting used to. So with about 12 miles covered so far, my view is that the FN2 Civic Type-R really is a step change, a step up when it comes to quality and comfort of the Honda Civic Type-R. And as for performance, well, I honestly can't really tell the difference. This car performs really, really well. Anyway, now it's time for me to take this home, get that sticker off the back and give this car a really good clean. So I'll see you all in a couple of days when we'll feature a little bit more on my Honda Civic Type-R FN2. Do you know, I really wasn't sold on the looks of the FN or FK generation Civic when it was launched back in 2005. That sweeping arc kind of front headlight setup and rear lights just looks so modern, particularly in the models that had a reflector where this car has a grille. But it's funny what happens over time, because stood here now, well, I think it looks absolutely fantastic, particularly in this colour, which I believe is called Nighthawk Black. And now when I look at the most modern Honda Civic Type-R, the FK8, well, I think it looks like a spaceship has landed on the car and left bits behind. It really is an ugly thing. Maybe though, in 10 years time, I too will think it looks great, and assuming I'm still making YouTube content then, well, perhaps you can expect to see one here on the channel. So do hit that subscribe button and let's see what happens in the 2030s. So the FN version of this car was the 3-door and the FK was the 5-door. This is actually the 8th generation of the Civic, with the Generation 1 Civic being introduced in 1972. As this video is going out in January 2022, well, this is the 50th anniversary year of the Honda Civic. It's now on its 11th generation, thanks to the release of the latest version of the car, the 11th gen, in 2021. With a strong reputation for reliability, fuel economy, and practicality, later models are more synonymous with performance and sportiness thanks to the VTI or the Type-R. And by 2020, the Honda Civic had become the 6th best-selling car of all time in the world, with over 18 million being sold. They are good. We know they're good. And this one's particularly good. With the 50-year history and 11 generations of this car, the challenge for me is knowing where to start in this video and how not to bore you silly. So I'm going to stick with the Type-R models of the Honda Civic, and in particular the European spec versions of the cars. Did you know there have been 5 Type-Rs so far, with a 6th generation Type-R due later this year in 2022 in the new Honda Civic FL model? So let's do a run through. And to start with, we go right back to the beginning, 1997, when we saw the launch of the much coveted EK9 Honda Civic Type-R. These cars are fetching crazy money now. I had a look briefly before I came out to shoot this video, and I couldn't find an average car for less than £17,000. The EK9 had the 1.6 litre B16B engine, and the car hit 60 miles an hour in just over 6.5 seconds, thanks to the 182 brake horsepower and lots of weight reduction measures taken by Honda at the factory, where things like the sound deadening from the standard 6th gen Civics were not fitted. Around 16,000 EK9 Type-Rs were made, all fitted with limited slip differential and the lovely red Recaro seats. Next came the EP3 Civic Type-R in 2001 with its 2-litre VTEC 197 brake horsepower K20A engine, which propelled the car from 0 to 60 in under 6.5 seconds. The limited slip differential did not carry over from the EK9 unless you were in Japan, but the EP3 did come with fully independent double wishbone rear suspension, making it an absolute hoot to drive at speed, particularly on track, and it was a big hit with both the motoring press and fans of JDM hot hatches. The car's party trick was lifting one of the rear wheels when cornering at speed, something Jeremy Clarkson covered extensively when reviewing the car on Top Gear. The EP3 Type-R was subject to the Civic range facelift during its production, and there were a couple of special editions made. Then in 2007 came the FD2 Type-R in Japan, which was a 4-door saloon Civic Type-R. Whilst here in Europe, well, we got the FN2 Civic Type-R. I said earlier that to many the FN2 is considered a bit of a backward step in the Civic Type-R development, and that's for 2 reasons. Firstly, thanks to the same K20 2-litre VTEC engine which was carried over from the EP3 to the FN2, this time producing 198 brake horsepower, just 1 brake horsepower more than its predecessor, but the car weighed 50 kilograms more at 1,320 kg. Despite this, the FN2 is just 0.1 of a second behind the EP3 to 60 miles an hour. The other reason the FN2 received a more guarded reception from the Civic Type-R community is thanks to the less complicated and cheaper to produce rear torsion bar suspension setup, as opposed to the fully independent double wishbone setup carrying over from the EP3. Now, I've owned both an EP3 and a Honda Civic FN2, and I can honestly say in the real world it makes absolutely no difference. I really don't see what all the fuss is about. This is a great handling car. But this issue really divided the motoring press as well. Top Gear's Jeremy Clarkson, who loved the EP3, absolutely slated the FN2 when reviewing it on the show, yet Top Gear magazine awarded its hot hatch of 2007 to the FN2, praising the car's control. Go figure. 2015 saw the arrival of the FK2 Civic Type-R and, for the first time, a turbocharged Type-R producing over 300 brake horsepower and a sub 6-second 0 to 60 time. Then in 2017 came the FK8 with power increased to 316 brake horsepower from the same 4-cylinder turbocharged K20C 2-litre engine. The FK8 can achieve 169 miles per hour, the fastest Type-R to date, and held the record for the fastest front-wheel drive production car lap time at the Nürburgring from April 17 to July 2019. Back to my FN2 Civic Type-R then, and this is a Type-R GT, and the GT means that this has got a slightly higher trim level than the standard car. This car comes with dual zone climate control, with the passenger control being in the door card. Comes with automatic headlights and windscreen wipers, power folding wing mirrors and cruise control. It's a really nice spec for a hot hatch. Now, I did read that the FN2 Type-R GT also came with a refrigerated glove box. Now, I'm not sure that my car has that. For those of you that are more familiar with the FN2 Type-R, please do drop a comment below and let me know if indeed these cars did come with a refrigerated glove compartment. Now, I've already mentioned the excellent interior in this car. The curved dashboard really is a lovely design touch, and the red carpets suit the sporty nature of the Civic. And these seats, well, they're simply outstanding, both in design and comfort. They are super supportive and really hold you in place when tackling a nice twisty B-road, which this Type-R absolutely loves. The Civic Type-R has got to be one of the most practical 3-door hot hatches around. Consistent with lots of Hondas of the time, the seats fold completely flat with ease, giving the owner loads of luggage space. I think Honda called this the magic seats, but I could be wrong. I've talked in this video a little bit about VTEC, but what is VTEC? I'll try and get this right. It's variable valve timing and lift electronic control. I think I'll put it up about here if in the event I got it wrong. What that means is that at higher revs you get higher performance, and at lower revs you get lower fuel consumption. And that's thanks to some very clever engineering where camshaft profiles are altered hydraulically. And what it means is that if you pin this car, and I mean really pin it, you get some incredible performance. It does feel quite unnatural taking a car over what is sort of 7,500 revs, but in this car it can take it, and it makes an absolutely fantastic noise when it does it. And this gearbox, well, it feels brilliant. God, it's a brilliant car, good grief. I said earlier how much I love the layout of this dashboard, that kind of split level set of instruments where you can see the speedo just up above. It really is very driver focused. In fact, outside of the stereo, the electric window, and their own dual zone climate control, which is set in the door card, which is quite a nice feature, there's very little for the passenger to do other than hold on and enjoy the ride. Production of the Civic Type-R FN2 ended in 2010, and with it went the last of the naturally aspirated Civic Type-Rs. Everything after this has been turbocharged. And I think that's a shame, because no hot hatch has ever really felt the same since the end of the FN2, thanks to the brilliant VTEC, which was in the first 3 iterations of the Type-R. And such is the styling of this car, I still believe that if Honda were making it today, well, it would still sell. It's such a modern looking car. And it's something of a performance bargain when you look at Type-Rs. The EK9 Civic Type-R, well, they're making mad money, as I said earlier. Good EP3s are on the up. And if you're looking at an FK2 or an FK8, both of which came after 2015, well, you're going to be paying more than £16,000. So, getting into a Honda Civic FN2 Type-R, a good one, for under 6,000, well, that feels like real value, and they truly are brilliant cars. And they won't be that price forever, so if you fancy one, do go out, find a good one, and start driving a Civic Type-R. I've really enjoyed buying this car, experiencing it, and sharing it with you. I know there's lots of FN2 content on YouTube. I've tried to do something a little bit different today. I hope that you've enjoyed it. Please don't forget to hit like on this video if you have enjoyed it. Do leave me a comment about the FN2, about Type-Rs, about something I'm bound to have got something wrong. Please let me know, or anything really about the channel. And do subscribe, we've got loads more to come. Thank you so much today for joining me. I hope to see you again really soon here on the channel. But for me, it's bye for now. Bye-bye.